This is March 15th. It's time for our Quest Club meeting to begin. And Joan, if you don't mind coming up and give the invocation as well as the memorial, very much appreciated.
In light of the topic of our Quest paper today, I found this. It's a Shakespeare sonnet about doors by Ian McMillan. It's not much to ask, just a door to lock. A door that won't break when someone kicks it. Door with a keyhole. Respond to that knock or not, my choice. It's broke, so let's fix it. The world, I mean, not the door. That's okay. It's my door to my room. Look, here's the key. The world, though, that's different. Somewhere to stay is all we need. Somewhere to be me, and not just someone you blithely ignore when you see me sleeping in the street. Let's begin with a door, food, then light and heat. The world must respond to this simple truth. Let's all have a door, let's all have a roof.
Well, it's now my privilege to introduce Ron Menze. Ron is a Fort Wayne native, growing up in the south side of Fort Wayne. He attended the College of Architecture and Planning at Ball State University and graduated in 1979. He received the college's Outstanding Achievement Award by the Alumni Society in 2002. He began his professional career working for renowned architect John Portman in Atlanta, but soon saw the light and came back to Fort Wayne. He became an owner with his firm of Morrison, Catman, and Menze in 1991. Now known as MKM, Architect Plus Design. He led the firm's healthcare design. Ron retired in 2017. His regional contributions are or were significant. And you're being very humble, Ron. You said, some stand proudly today, and others have been bulldozed. And we are, very frankly, we're at a greater loss when they've been bulldozed. And so, quite a confession to make. Ron currently serves on the board of History Center, the board of the History Center. The love of Fort Wayne history led him to be president of Friends of the River. You will occasionally find him leading a school group tour on Sweet Breeze, the replica canal boat on Promenade Park. Ron has volunteered with the Red Cross since 1993, serving 2 terms as board president. With retirement, it has allowed him to volunteer in 2-week national deployments to 10 national disasters. A few hurricanes in Florida, a few floods in the South, responding to the Camp Fire in Paradise, California in 2020, and the Mayfield tornado in Kentucky in 2022. What noble work that is, Ron. Thank you for doing it. Ron's proudest achievement has been his involvement with the Community Foundation of Greater Fort Wayne. He has performed committee work the last 14 years, including chair of the Strategic Grants Committee. Ron is currently the chair of the board of directors. Ron is married to wife Diane, who we have met, and Diane, again, welcome. A retired Southwest Allen County Schools kindergarten teacher, and now an active volunteer also is Diane. They have 3 daughters. Ron has added 2 sons-in-law and a new granddaughter in the last 2.5 years. Ron says he also notes this: the 4 women in his life have higher academic credentials than he does. And, well, that's speaking a lot. Ron, this is his second paper, Homelessness, What Works? Ron?
I'll start today with a quote I found on the topic of homelessness in Allen County. Quoting, The problems of homelessness are centered in poverty and lack of housing, both of which are symptoms of mental illness, mental retardation, chronic illness, drug and alcohol addiction, the experience of catastrophic loss, depression, borderline personality disorders, low endurance, and low self-esteem. And underneath it all, an inability to relate to other people, often their own families, who may love them but can't stand to live with them. End quote. This was the opening statement from the 2006 Quest paper of the late Reverend Dr. Richard Fraser of Trinity English Lutheran Church. 24 of the 26 homeless agencies he cited in that Quest paper still exist today, 18 years later. Any dramatic changes in your perception of homelessness during that time period? Please forgive me for any of my descriptive terms used in this crisis. Just as mental retardation was used 18 years ago, some of my descriptions may be awkward, cruel, and perhaps dated, just as the term the homeless is now more compassionately labeled as the unhoused. I've been fortunate in my life to witness and assist a wide variety of unhoused individuals and families. I mean that. I've been fortunate to be able to do that. The following are 4 examples that I have experienced and may give you a vignette of that unhoused population. In 1980, my church congregation in Atlanta sponsored a Laotian Hmong family. The Hmong had remained in Southeast Asia after helping the American war effort in the Vietnam War and were being persecuted. The sponsored family consisted of a father, mother, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and surprise, mom was pregnant when they exited the airplane. They exited the airplane with a few boxes, their complete worldly possessions. I was one of 6 volunteers who led and accompanied this family through their first year in a vastly different society. The father was an intelligent, hardworking man with an amazing desire for a new start. They were without a personal network of family and friends, except for the 6 of us. He found hourly work, worked hard, they adapted well, but within a year, voluntarily relocated to Minneapolis to join the largest Hmong community in the United States. Quick note, while many of the challenges of these Hmong immigrants are the same for the homeless today, I'll not be discussing immigrant settlement today. Example number 2, as mentioned, I'm a American Red Cross disaster volunteer in 10 national disasters. Within hours of a disaster, or sometimes before, the Red Cross opens shelters. We welcome all individuals and families as they pour into the gymnasiums, public event centers, with a few garbage bags, boxes, random suitcase, with no questions asked. They are sometimes wet, cold, having lost all of their possessions and any semblance of a home, and sometimes losing a whole community. Some are financially secure, and within a few days pull out a credit card and relocate to hotels, if they're available, or another city within a few days. Some call friends or go to other family members' homes. Others have been pushed over the financial edge. There are the hourly workers who won't get a paycheck while their places of employment are being closed, and sometimes come to the realization that that job has just disappeared. Most of the last residents housed in our Red Cross shelters are pre-disaster homeless. Most shelter clients that we welcome crave independence and a quick recovery from a disaster. The American Red Cross strives for resilience from our clients and gives them the tools. Most want to be independent, but some do not. Example 3, I was a volunteer and board member about 20 years ago with Interfaith Hospitality Network in Fort Wayne. Founded in 1999, this organization was the only local shelter providing providing emergency shelter for homeless families. Homeless families were housed at 12 area churches, ours being one, for an evening meal and overnight accommodations on 1-week cycles. Most families stayed to themselves, frequently felt ill from the stress. I slept on the couch in the parsonage during their stays to be an overnight host. A van would gather them up in the morning, took them to the day center where children were picked up for school and adults were given job help, and at that time, a permanent address for potential employers. The original 2-week anticipated home finding process was at that time realistically lengthened to about a couple months. The State Street Family Center, in 2009, the program transformed to Just Neighbors Interfaith Homeless Network. That better describes it. The State Street Family Center now houses all families for their entire stay in a permanent family bedroom, while churches still bring dinners into the residence. At the beginning of this month, and your website keeps up to date, Joshua, had 10 families, 13 adults, 3 infants, which included 3 infants, 14 2 to 12-year-olds, and 2 teenagers, for a population of 32. More on Just Neighbors later. My final experience, prior to the pandemic, my wife and I volunteered at the Red Rescue Mission on Superior Street. We served dinner to the program residents on a monthly basis. We first served the men within the rehab program named Restoration House. These men were respectful, both in appearance and manners, with a consistent please and thank you. When these men finished their meal and the room was cleared, the doors were open to those off the street. Some were dressed like me, some were very different. Those individuals, mostly men, but a few women and children, entered the building and were very hungry, layered in clothing, protective of their personal belongings and space, non-talkative, with little or no social interaction. They were unkept. For the current state of homelessness and causes, federal officials reported in December of last year that the United States had experienced a dramatic 12% increase in homelessness to its highest reported level, as soaring rents and a decline in coronavirus pandemic assistance combined to put housing out of reach for many. About 635,000 people were reported homeless nationwide, the most since yearly counts began in 2007. More than half of the people experiencing homelessness in our country were in California, with 28% of that total, New York, Florida, and Washington State. Indiana ranks 42nd of the state by percentage of unhoused people. 8 of about every 10,000 of our population in Indiana is homeless, for a total of about 5,500 people in the state. Marion County is double that rate, which brings Fort Wayne even a lower percentage. First-time homelessness was behind most of the recent national increase, which makes strategies that help people exit or prevent homelessness in the first place much more critical. Let me communicate one key reality. No one desires to be homeless, but there are some life elements that are more common to homelessness. Homelessness is caused by trauma, mental illness, substance abuse, destructive behaviors, no access to education or resources, and lack of people who care. A study by the California Policy Lab found 75% of the unsheltered population have substance abuse conditions, 78% have mental health conditions, and 84% have physical health conditions also. One of the strongest elements increasing homelessness is mental illness. A national mental illness crisis has been building since the deinstitutionalization of the mentally ill in the 1960s. The Medicaid Act of 1965 envisioned the transition of those needing help to the new wonder drugs to treat mental illness, or better treatment in a small community center than in specialized state hospitals. The money was cut to the state facilities while funding for assumed less costly community services started. Our country now has only 5% of the psychiatric beds than we had at that time in the 60s. They were simply eliminated. The realization that caring for serious mental illness without adequate professional staff on hand and without the means to monitor drug treatments is seldom successful. As often quoted, the often quoted saying is, does mental illness cause homelessness, or does homelessness cause mental illness? Another category that really adds to the homeless crisis is ALICE families. The acronym Asset Limited Income Constrained But Employed, ALICE. You could define them as the working poor. Sad to say, many within our community are one step away from homelessness. Nearly 1 in 4 households earn an annual income above the federal poverty level, but well below the cost of living. HHS, Health and Human Health Services, defined $31,000 as the federal poverty level guideline for a family of 4. Mom, dad, 2 kids. A stark example, ALICE families in Indiana spend 19% of the family budget for childcare. Okay, that's what they do. That averages about $500 per month for 2 children with a registered home-based childcare budget. The budget for a registered home-based childcare is $832 a month, which is $300 more than what the family can afford. See the problem? To put this working poor crisis in perspective, and it varies greatly within the nation and within Allen County, a couple examples. The Leo Cedarville township or town has 13% ALICE families. Fort Wayne is at 28% ALICE families, and the county high is Monroeville with 45% ALICE families. Zip code data is also available, so you can find that and look at that. Lack of affordable housing adds to the problem. It does not, to a great extent, exist. The Allen County rental occupancy rate is reportedly at 96% now. Communities and neighborhoods don't embrace these developments. Landlords do not accept or welcome housing vouchers. Previously called Section 8 and now called the Housing Choice Voucher Program by HUD. Residents need help navigating the system. A person holding a housing voucher can have up to a 5-year wait. In our city, the Fort Wayne Housing Authority administers these with the prioritization of those families that make less than 30% of the area median income. Rental units are available for those families who pay at least 30% of their adjusted gross income for rent and utilities, with the Housing Authority paying the landlord the remainder. The most recent Allen County report boasts 1,100 family members in public housing, 7,300 family members served in the voucher program. A new complex, and as we get into more examples and solutions that exist or treatments to that, is one that is the River's Edge complex on Spy Run Avenue Extended. In 2020, they opened up 56 1- and 2-bedroom units for people with disabilities who are homeless, with supportive services, with housing, and supportive services from Park Center Mental Health. Talk about a common one, a lack of food versus food access. There is a difference. Food is expensive, but I had one social service leader tell me that homelessness has nothing to do with food scarcity, but with food availability to the right people. 19 Fort Wayne nonprofit organizations offer 37 differently timed meals every week in Fort Wayne. The Rescue Mission serves 3 meals a day, 365 days a year. St. Mary's Soup Kitchen serves 1 meal a day with both are open, both Rescue Mission and St. Mary's Soup Kitchen are open every day of the year to anyone that desires. On Thursday nights, you could go to 3 different dinner locations in downtown Fort Wayne. I've touched on some of the causes. Now I'd like to share you some of the Allen County programs working to alleviate the scourge of being unhoused. These offerings range from, and I am probably going to tell you maybe of half of the programs that I came across or documented. These offerings range from the soft approach to more intense residential behavioral modification programs. What works or tries and attempts to work? First one, the Fort Wayne Police Department's Hope and Recovery Team, HART, H-A-R-T. They are the organizers and assist with handing out hope in the Great Hall of the downtown Allen County Public Library from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the 3rd Wednesday of each month. It happened a couple days ago with their annual meeting. Simply put, it's a social service organization fair targeted toward the unhoused. Captain Kevin Hunter with the Fort Wayne Police Department states, "We hope to create relationships with individuals, and that's the biggest thing. We don't push. We want to talk and be their neighbor and see if they need help along the way. It's about building community with that population. It's about having a connection with them." The police department focuses on finding the road to recovery with addiction from opioids and stimulants. One they focused with is Avenues Recovery Treatment Center Inpatient Treatment Center. Participates in this fair along with others such as Neighborhood Health, the YW, and 15 other organizations. A fair. Another one which has some ties here in the room, Community Circle of Caring, offered by Trinity English Lutheran Church. Senior Pastor Gary Erdos writes, "On Thursday evenings at 5:30 p.m., we have dinner with our neighbors. Anyone who would like to come and eat with us. As you can imagine, this shapes our attitudes in regards to any societal challenges, including homelessness and the lack of adequate housing for many of our neighbors and friends." Pastor Erdos quotes Anglican priest and ethicist Sam Wells, who suggests effective societal transformation will occur when we choose the hard work of being with one another honestly and openly, forming relationships that change us all. Trinity English distributes free box lunches on Wednesday from their vestibule and also their parking lot in their Street Reach program. The church publishes a list of 19 partners that help feed those in need. It gives the schedule of where they all are. Probably one of the rawest of solutions or outreach programs is Street Reach for the Homeless. The founder is Sally Segerson. I can best describe her as a social justice advocate for the homeless. She distributes, I believe personally and a small group of volunteers, food, personal hygiene items, gloves, hats, coats, blankets, tents, directly to the street people of Fort Wayne. Her Facebook page proclaims 349 coats distributed in the last 18 weeks, 316 tents distributed in 22 weeks. Her Journal Gazette opinion columns, if you've seen them, are fiery and don't mince words. She demands 24-hour cooling centers for the homeless individuals and notification to the homelessness of deteriorating summer air quality issues. Remember the Canada wildfires last summer? She is Facebook-based and inquires of the mayor's office publicly on a plan for additional warming centers for those that have been banned from the rescue mission. Quoting her, "I'm awaiting the response from Mayor Henry, and know that staying silent when I have the ability to speak up is then joining that which is wrong. Making a difference means challenge, sometimes sacrifice, but silence is complacency. I will not stay silent, so others will remain comfortable and the status quo rules. Not yesterday, not today, looking forward, not today, and looking forward, not tomorrow." How do you feel about this outreach effort? Does it stir you to action? Is it a solution, or is it simply empowerment? Another program in Fort Wayne, the YWCA of Northeast Indiana, strongly in the news. It has been in the forefront of advocating against domestic violence against women and individuals, serving a 6-county area. Paula Hughes-Shue is the executive director. They are currently relocating from their current South Side Fort Wayne location to the former Hall's Guest House on West Washington Center Road. The new building will increase their capacity from their current 116 beds to 244 beds, and it will be called the Hefner Center. They're relocating some services in April and will be fully relocated by the end of 2024. The cost of acquisition and renovation is about $19 million, large funded project. They maintain a 24/7 crisis line, helping to educate over 7,600 youth and adults about domestic violence and healthy relationships. In 2022, they also provided safe housing for adults and children, with providing 94 residents with residential addiction recovery services. A small but relatively new organization is the St. Joseph Missions Women's Shelter, located in the 3500 block of Lake Avenue, and offers emergency shelter for up to 18 single homeless women at a time. It has served single women in need who have nowhere to live and thus are vulnerable to become victims of sex trafficking, violence, and abusive relationships. It has served over 200 women since founding in June 2021. Erin Ness is the executive director. As you notice, all of these have a distinct segment of service. The Fort Wayne Rescue Mission, led by Reverend Thomas MacArthur. Reverend Donovan Cooley is the former CEO. Housed in a large new 4-story building at Lafayette, Washington, best known for its residential programs. 122 beds for men participating in the short-term residential program, lasting 3 to 6 months, medium length time, and long-term residential programming lasting up to a year. They have 50 beds for residential housing ministry for women and children at a separate location branded as Caris House. Both also have a 30-day short-term housing program. These are the differences since they moved into the new building they've been able to offer. There are 150 beds for men and 30 for women at Caris House, and women also at the Caris House. There is an invitation to join the full program for those short-time people for if demonstrating wanting a real change in their own lives. During called emergencies, like sub-zero temps, things of that nature, 100 cots can be added into the mission. In 2023, the rescue mission averaged 329 people in a safe shelter during the night, averaging 300 and almost 30 people. They estimate 75% of their residents have or have yet to be diagnosed with mental illness. Third floor of their 4-story building is currently empty and is planned for future programs. I've mentioned this. The Rescue Mission's Community Meals Program is open to the general public, the 3 meals a day, 7 a.m., noon, and 5 p.m. for men, women, and children, with over 250,000 meals served per day. The 23 average was a 37% of meals served increase over 2022. A new offering this year at the Rescue Mission is the nonprofit Alliance Health Center Clinic, opened within the doors of the Rescue Mission in October last year, offering primary care and behavioral health services. One I've been involved with in the past is the Just Neighbors Interfaith Homeless Network, want to feature one of the programs. As part of my research, I interviewed Joshua as the executive director. Just Neighbors created an amazing program to solve homelessness in Allen County. In 2021, Fort Wayne had the 13th largest eviction rate in the nation. We were number 13 in the nation. Just Neighbors worked to establish a new and fair eviction protocol within the Allen County court system. That reality is that the eviction of tenants from rental units within Allen County hurts both the tenants along with the financial negative outcomes for the landlords. Working with a cohort of the 145 Allen County landlords, a logical and understandable set of protocol changes were made in November 22. 2 required eviction hearings became 1 with an adequate notice of that meeting time before the hearing was set. A Just Neighbors eviction intervention staff member attends the eviction hearing with the client. They do not provide legal advice. That initial hearing's goal is to assist, resolve, and agree for both parties to participate in the eviction diversion program. The new protocol will further the goals of transparency and efficiency through a standardized process for all parties. 2,900 evictions have been avoided. Limited family assistance has been given in 298 cases, about 10%. Of those approximate 300 gifts, only 3 households have been evicted. Very effective program. Allen County has gone from 13th highest in the nation in 2021 to not being listed in the top 100 cities in 2023. Transitional housing at Vincent Village. Quester Sharon Tucker is the executive director. That offers Vincent House shelter for 30 individuals and 34 village rental homes scattered in southeast Fort Wayne, centered in that Pontiac and Holton Avenue area. I've had the privilege of touring the Vincent Village campus a few years ago and greatly admire that program. They offer wraparound support and services needed for families to stay housed. They work with families to pay off debt, learn how to budget, and raise their credit scores. Vincent Village is utilized when there are no other financial strains other than extenuating circumstances and underlying causes that affect stable housing. By providing stability, support, and resources, Vincent Village provides housing for over 200 individuals every year, keeping them housed, providing services that prevent eviction and end the cycle of homelessness. Residents may stay up to 5 years in the rental housing. Offered services are fundamental for obtaining and maintaining employment, paying down debt, enhancing one's education and skills, improving mental and physical health, or simply eliminating chronic stress levels. All necessary outcomes to change mindsets for long-term stability. 2 more items. An element that had been ignored is youth aging out of the foster care system. It is estimated that 65% of youth that age out of foster homes when turning 18 don't have a place to live. 40% of those in homeless shelters are former foster children. The courtyard is a 36 one- and two-bedroom housing development built in 2014, just north of the old Lutheran Hospital complex. It was the first supportive housing program in Indiana serving youth aged 18 to 25 who are aging out of foster care, experiencing homelessness, or risk of homelessness. Residents are again required to pay rent, but no more than 30% of their income because of the housing vouchers. SCAN was the fiscal sponsor and offers case management support to develop goals for self-sufficiency. Another program which is somewhat downplayed or not as visible is the school corporation's student assistance programs. Of all the individuals touched by the homeless care system in our community, 40% are children, okay? It's the families and the children. The McKinney-Vento Act, enacted into federal law in 1987, requires every school corporation to have a liaison to assist unhoused students. Unhoused is defined as children who lack a regular, fixed, or adequate nighttime residence. And these are the kids who are couch surfing, living in a car, shelter, park, not in the physical custody of a parent or guardian, or awaiting foster care placement. In the 21-22 school year, Fort Wayne Community Schools, just Fort Wayne Community Schools, assisted more than 940 students experiencing homelessness. The law requires homeless students to be transported to their home schools, wherever they may be in that district, wherever they're living, preserving their social network and dignity in the transition. In conclusion, last fall I attended a panel discussion of 16 local experts at the Rescue Mission's event for National Hunger and Homelessness Week. One common theme was repeated: one size does not fit all. I'll repeat that. One size does not fit all. Housing will never solve homelessness, but community will. In Allen County, there are other fine homeless assistance programs that prevent or fight homelessness. These include, and you can think of the nonprofits that go along with these, post-incarceration programs, veterans programs, mental and behavioral health groups, alcohol and chemical dependency treatment programs. Other programs for the greater good include food banks, programs in your local churches, youth development programs, and an excellent literacy program like the Literacy Alliance. I began my paper referencing a quote 18 years ago from Pastor Frazier. The state of homelessness in Allen County is now different. Many more specific offerings exist targeting vulnerable populations. In my conservative estimate, we now have 500 more beds available to the unhoused that now exist than we did in 2006. There are great hurdles to overcome. Great progress has been made to address homelessness, with Fort Wayne as a compassionate hub in our region. I end with the words from Sally Sigerson of Street Reach. Search for your compassion, increase your knowledge to erase the unknown, and rid yourself of biases that are merely judgments against these men and women. Recognize the humanity of each of these individuals as you look into their eyes and offer a smile and warmth. That act of humanity is the beginning of change. Thank you.